I prepped this Craftsman double edge axe head. Took a half round file, cleaned all of the rust out of the inside, took the DA and cleaned up the faces so that they're presentable. I'm going to hit it one more time with some 220 and to give it another round of polishing. I taped all of the tape that's on here is to, if you see the center shaft down in the middle, you have to center that left, right, and then so that the head isn't tipped, you know, like this on the shaft. So I've got it taped straight, and then once the epoxy is in there, you have to keep the axe upright to make sure it stays straight until it sets up. I'm using 3,000 pound 5-minute epoxy. So once it's I've got line tied around the shaft so that it'll come up and catch the handle about here. It'll come up on either side, and then I'll hang this axe head up and then let it sit for 24 hours. That way there won't be pressure. There won't be any lifting pressure on the head. It'll just be up in the air so that it stays straight. But you can see in the epoxy now, most of the bubbles have surfaced. The big ones have anyway, and now it's just the cosmetic ones that are coming up and setting. As if you set it up this way, then it'll self-purge. It'll flow down. Epoxy will flow down and get into all the gaps, and then you fill it to the top. And then you give it a chance to purge itself of the air bubbles as they go. And I've got this topped up so that it's a good 1/8 inch above. So one of the last things I do after it's set up, it will be to file this down flush, and then we'll call it good. Once the epoxy's set up, I'll DA all this smooth again, clean it up. I'll go through and sharpen it, put an edge on both sides, and then I'll hit it with that bluing, and then it should be a pretty good looker. But right now it's wet epoxy. All the while I was doing this, I was trying to figure out a way to hold the camera and mix and apply this epoxy at the same time, and that it just wouldn't have worked out. So you get the epoxy was mixed right here using a putty knife. This is a piece of scrap cardboard, and I pulled the cardboard clear over here to the edge so that I could take epoxy off the board, and put it right into the eye without a bunch of spilling. There's still epoxy on the putty knife, but once I let it dry, that'll come off real fast and easy. Latex gloves are a must when you're dealing with epoxy. It just saves so much cleanup. It saves more cleanup than you can even mention in a sentence. Keeps it off your camera, keeps it off your hands. Otherwise, it ends up wearing off in 2 or 3 days. But that's where we're at right now.